And so I sat with it a long time, and then I was like, oh, I should have said that. And first of all, I coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't make a bit of flipping
None.
difference because it's in the past, so you
Yeah.
can't change it.
Yeah.
You could change it going forward. So then I really needed to look at it like, if I had said this, then how would the conversation have turned out? And our conversation turned out well. We never spoke again, but we left on like that. We were on a good note, but then our energies both just went a separate way, and it took me a long time to be okay with that. But that's those layers of forgiveness for yourself and the other person and peace. But I realized that what I did in the situation aligned with my values, and it was walking in grace in the moment. Like, I loved this person and I truly cared about this person. So I genuinely, it hurt to know that me being in my power had an effect where they went into a place where they felt less than.
Hey, Soul Warriors, we want to welcome you to our podcast. Soul Intentions is here to drop the wisdom, tools, and real life experiences that helped us transform our lives so that we can shine without the struggle. We want to share everything we have learned so that you can do the same.
Welcome to episode 9, When Love Means Walking Away. Today we're going to jump into all sorts of things about letting go, when to let go, how it feels when you let go, how it feels when you don't let go, and all of the in-betweens. We've all had times when we felt like we didn't want to be around certain friends or be involved in a certain job anymore, a relationship, family member.
Yeah.
Where you love these things, maybe not your job, hopefully your job, but you love these people and you love like the people you work with possibly, or your actual work, but it's just not a good, healthy situation anymore. And a lot of times we're looking outside of us and around all the time and hoping like that boss changes or that person will stop like flipping out at the family picnic or that friend will stop going in their negative rotation of same stories over and over again, complaining about the same people. And it doesn't happen because we can't just wait for other people to change. So letting go is a totally internalized thing where you have to start checking in and see what you can possibly change, and then watch and give an opportunity for that outer situation to shift. And if not, then start looking at the steps of what letting go looks like, and when it's done in a loving way. That's what we really want to impress upon you, that often letting go is done out of frustration and anger and fear and all these negative emotions, and it can be totally done through unconditional love and through actually stepping into your power.
Right. I mean, imagine loving someone and something so much that you are willing to walk away from it. I mean, that is the ultimate act of love for yourself, for the person, for the situation. I mean, and exercising that is so empowering, and I think it leaves room for growth on top of that. Because when you get stuck in a situation that isn't benefiting you or the person or the other person or the situation that you might feel stuck in, you know, when you love yourself enough to say, shit, I need to walk away from this because otherwise I'm not exercising well-being for myself.
Exactly. So there's a level of self-preservation, and there's a level of self-respect in it. So you might be needing to lean into, what do I need? What can I supply myself with? Or what about this situation or relationship is not working for me? What is it, a story that I'm assuming, you know, the other person's not paying attention to me because I'm not important enough story? Or something's going on for that person, or you haven't developed a good communication pattern with that person.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, I think communication is key. Like when you're having something, instead of, you know, creating the story in your head, you know, have a conversation with the person if you're able to have the conversation, a respectful one at that, mind you, where you're both listening to each other and really addressing whatever those situations are without judgment, without fear, without taking things personally. I mean, that's another thing. When we have conversations, we tend to take things personally. So when you're having these types of conversations, in a situation where you might have to walk away, doing it respectfully, honestly, and authentically is a key, because there's no need for people to be assholes about walking away from something. There really isn't. Does it feel like that's how you might want to, exit the door? Really dramatic? Probably. Yep.
Yep. You just want to flip them the bird and be like, screw you, I'm not into
I'm
this.
done with you right now. That kind of stuff. We want to exercise those things. But when we do it in a loving, respectful way, it feels so much better. Because regret's a bitch.
Exactly.
And if you're saying things, out of the moment, and then you're going to look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
And don't ever use walking away as a threat.
Yeah.
Well, if you do that one more time, I'm out of here. Like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you can respectfully say, like, this is getting really negative and I'm not cool with it. And, I'm going to give it a little bit, but I might exit stage left, and that's okay. It might not be okay to the other person, but you said your piece. You said it in a nice way. How they take it is on them.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, don't use it as a test. Don't use it as like, well, I'm going to leave because I don't, feel X, Y, and Z. Or some people don't even say they don't feel this way. Like, I'm going to leave to see. And then they're like, oh, they didn't tell me not to, or they didn't chase after me, or they like.
Those are games.
Games.
You're playing games. You're not being in a loving vibration in a situation that can get really, really complicated very quickly.
Right.
And you don't want to do that. Emotions will run high. We get that. But when
especially in old family situations or old friend situations where you have a pattern of behaviors.
Yeah. But if you you know yourself enough to know when you're being triggered, and pausing and taking a moment, like we've told you guys time and time again, really get to know what it is that gets you going, and just kind of like lay back on it, to be able to have a conversation that is respectful and honest in that particular situation, because we get it. I'm the first one that tends to react, when I'm feeling cornered, if you will. And, I've had my share of walking away from situations that I didn't want to walk away from, but I knew I had to.
Exactly.
For, like you said earlier, for self-preservation, because it wasn't healthy for me. I wasn't loving myself enough to think that I could walk away from that. You know what I'm saying? And, when I decided to put clear boundaries with my relationship with my mom, and walking away to a good point where I felt comfortable, And it wasn't like I was able to have a conversation. Look, Mom, this is how I'm feeling, right, and all this stuff, because that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, you can't make somebody else own what you think their bad behavior is.
Exactly.
Even if it's blatantly bad.
Exactly.
Or just your opinion of bad.
Yeah. And so I had to figure out within myself how to lovingly walk away from a very complicated relationship with my mom. I love her. I think she's an awesome human being when she's in a good state. But I needed to practice self-preservation, and walking away needed to feel loving. It needed to feel authentic, and it needed to feel respectful for me. And I couldn't have that conversation with her, so I had to have it with myself.
Exactly.
I want to give you a quick message before we get back to this episode. Unlock the secrets of your soul for free with Soul Notes. Say goodbye to feeling stuck and hello to the validation of your alignment. These weekly prompts are filled with reminders, gentle nudges, and sometimes a kick in the ass, all with love from your soul. Don't just take our word for it. Try Soul Notes for yourself and see the difference it can make in your life. Trust us, your soul and you will thank you. Just go to soulnote.org. That's SOULNOTE.org. Now back to our podcast.
Okay, let's jump into a little two-part thing on what you can do if you're in the middle of a conflict or situation and you're considering letting go.
Okay.
Take a second and look at the conflict, look at the drama, look at whatever's going on, and what part in that do you have control over? And then focus on that. Because it'll take you out of this big, like, blah, I don't like this, all this is going on, into, okay, right now I can excuse myself and go to the bathroom. I can say, oh my goodness, I didn't realize the time. I have to leave. So sorry.
Those are those pause moments that we keep talking about, because you know something's brewing, or you when you ask yourself a question, you give yourself a moment. That's what that's doing.
That's exactly what that's doing. Because when something starts to happen and it's out of alignment with your spirit, your soul, or what type of energy you want to be in, it gets big.
Real big.
Real big. Real negative, real, like, I don't like this. So to be able to, I have control over this, I have control over me, just brings it down into a more manageable space for yourself.
Yeah.
And then talk about it after. If you can't talk about it with the person that you're in the thing with, talk about it with a therapist, a trusted friend that's just not going to yes you to death. We really want to touch upon that, because we see people put things on social media that, this happened, and you'll get the, fuck them, you're great, I just love you. None of that is helpful.
No.
None of that is helpful.
Those are just reactions.
And it helps you in the moment because it's validating, like, yeah, fuck them. Like, I am great and they were an asshole. But that's not help you to move beyond any place.
Right.
So how can you, like you said, pause? What's in my control? What actions can I take? And if you have a situation you're going into with somebody that you've consistently, with a parent, with a friend, with a job, pre-plan these things. You play that story over and over in your head about 1,000,000 times to begin with.
Yeah.
So why not rehearse things so that it comes automatic to you instead of the freezing or the wanting to tell them off or whatever? You already have a set thing that you have practiced in your head, hopefully out loud. I find it really useful if I'm having something going on with somebody. When I drive somewhere, I talk it out in the car. I pretend they're sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
And I have a whole conversation, and sometimes I talk back as their voice. And we have a conversation back and forth until it comes out to a place where I want it to be. Sometimes it's my reaction where I'm telling them off just so I can get it out of my system and be like, oh yeah, that didn't end very well. Or I just like, oh, I'm sorry, and try to like placate them when I'm not really sorry. I'm just trying to get out of the situation.
I do mine's differently. I don't talk in the car or anything like that. I like play it out in my head, like a movie. And the first thing that I do is I let all the reactionary shit come to play.
Yep.
The things that I don't want to do, those come out. You know what I'm saying? So that I can see how ridiculous I might look or sound during those moments. So I let that play out. And then I literally visualize myself just kind of taking a breath and seeing where the triggers are and asking questions. Why did I feel this way? Why did I react this way? And then I get into the parts of what I really want to communicate, to act upon. And that's how I process it in my head. Like if I have to have a conversation with someone, like in the moment, real time, I literally take several deep breaths before that happens, because I'm more of I need to contemplate on things before I answer anything.
And I'm a jump right in and just get it done, rip the Band-Aid off type of person.
I'm not. I'm like, give me a minute. Because now I have to switch gears, because a lot of the times, even in our own relationship, you might be in a place and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not there.
Yeah, because I'm just like, la 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 la.
Give me a second.
and expecting a response from you.
Exactly. It's like, even doing that is cool. It's like, okay, this person wants to have a conversation with me, but you're like out in left field somewhere doing other things. So you asking, it's like, oh, whoa, give me a minute. I need to switch gears now.
And then I don't get mad when she does that. I'm like, oh, okay. I might be disappointed inside because I'm like, oh, I really wanted to get that out. Yeah. And then I recognize that about myself. It's not because of her.
Right. And the thing is that you're very good at knowing when, even if I don't do that, you're really good at knowing that you've come to that place.
Yes.
You'll see, I must have a look on my face or something, and you'll say, oh, okay, let me give you a second, or we don't need to talk about it right now.
Yeah. Do you need some time, or...
So, like, knowing the people, obviously, that you're having the conversation with is very important.
And
watching
staying
the body
aware.
language.
Exactly. So I was just going to say, I watch your body language. I watch your response time. I watch, sometimes I can tell that they're just forced responses to give me a response. And then I'm like,
But yeah, I mean, it's like that's how it plays out for me. I'm not really good at, real time conversation. Mm-hmm. I have to really prepare myself for it. And I can do it. Definitely, I can do it. I just need to be able to let the other person know I need to switch gears right now.
Exactly.
So that I can get into that present moment with them to have that conversation. Because if my mind is someplace else, it's a bitch.
Yep.
It's hard to really stay present. And I always want to be present with people. When they're having a conversation with me. So I to me, that's a level of respect. So that's important to me. So being able to communicate, like, oh, I'm not there yet, give me a second. That's the way I process stuff. Exactly. So it's interesting, like you doing it in the car, verbalizing, which makes sense because you're a very talkative person.
Right.
So, you always talk things out loud to be able to get to your end result. So that makes sense. Me, I contemplate.
I contemplate too, a lot. I mean, that's all self-reflection, and that's actually healthy.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I had an old friend, and there was some conflict going on that I heard about. So I asked if we could have a call, and we got on a call. And after talking for a few minutes, she came to the place where she was like, "Your energy was really big and really strong," and so it got me in a place where I wasn't feeling. I don't remember the exact word. I could, but it doesn't matter because that's a story. Something or she wasn't feeling as confident, or it was kind of intimidating type of thing. And I said, I'm really sorry that you felt that way with my energy. And I had talked to several people about it after this whole conversation. And they're like, well, she didn't apologize. And, why did you apologize for your energy when you were just being in your power and all of these things? And I was like, yeah, she didn't apologize. Like, should I be upset about that? Because these two people I talked about seemed really offended by it. And no, she didn't seem to like care about. Okay. So I thought of it from these people's perspective, and maybe I should have. And another person, well, why didn't you go back at her and tell her? And it was just all this stuff. And so I sat with it a long time, and then I was like, oh, I should have said that. And first of all, I coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't make a bit of flipping difference because it's in the past, so you can't change it. Yeah. You could change it going forward. So then I really needed to look at it like, if I had said this, then how would the conversation have turned out? And our conversation turned out well. We never spoke again, but we left on like that. We were on a good note, but then our energies both just went a separate way, and it took me a long time to be okay with that. But that's those layers of forgiveness for yourself and the other person and peace. But I realized that what I did in the situation aligned with my values, and it was walking in grace in the moment. Like, I loved this person and I truly cared about this person. So I genuinely, it hurt to know that me being in my power had an effect where they went into a place where they felt less than. Like, I never want that. I don't want that for anybody, let alone somebody that I have a relationship with and I care about.
But that part there was more about that person versus you.
Right, exactly.
That
so I wasn't like apologizing,
stuff.
like, oh, sorry, my energy was so big, or sorry if you thought I was being bold, or sorry that I was being myself. I was not excusing or apologizing for me being me at all whatsoever. I was really sorry that my friend was hurting. But upon telling the story to other people, it was immediate, reactions. And I know that they were protecting me, and because they care about me. So they wanted me to get that resolution or that apology, and I can totally respect that. But do you see how when you turn things around, instead of all the reactions and people's assumptions, and then you shifting your behavior based on what people you actually trust have said back to you, no, if you stay really solid in who you are and in integrity with yourself and walk in that grace, which is all these things are things you just practice and you lean into more and more, and then they just naturally come out in you.
Yeah. And that was like real time loving yourself and loving your friends.
Yep. Even if we weren't going to be friends anymore.
Yeah, I mean that, and that's, that's a realization that needs to be addressed also, is that when you have these conversations, that sometimes it will mean like this podcast is walking away from each other.
Yep.
And because that's the reality of some of these things. But that was like cool, real time loving yourself and loving this person, to be able to have that kind of conversation with them.
Because I could have easily gotten on that call, taking it personally. And because I did, when I first heard about what she was saying, I took it very personally. I'm like, that's not me. I didn't do any of those things. And this is what everybody thinks now. No wonder people are treating me this way. A lot of pieces fell into place for me about different interactions I was having with people in my friend circle, in my community. But I got curious, and I walked into the conversation very open to hear what she had to say, instead of putting all my assumptions and my, maybe I should be mad, maybe I'm hurt. Instead of take all that out of it, and let's come together and try to communicate to each other what really happened for both of us and see where we can end up. And at the end of the conversation, we never went into a place of like, we're not going to talk anymore. It was like, if you ever feel like this, in our interactions with each other, if you could please, like, even if you can't do it immediately, at some point, just let me know so we can talk about it, because I never want you to feel that way. I never want to feel disconnected from you in that way. And she agreed, and we went our merry way, and that was the end of the friendship after over 10 years.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be I'm walking away and I'm doing it in integrity. Like
it just happens organically. It just
happens organically sometimes.
Because that's the way the energy was supposed to go.
Yeah. If you're just not aligned anymore, that's why it's the art of letting go is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if something's not in your life, your energies aren't aligned. Even if it's a bad thing, if something is still in your life, somewhere in there's still some plug-in, some energies are aligned, and that's why it's still present there.
Right.
So how can you work on you to shift your energy so then that whole thing shifts? And how can you hold yourself in your new energy as much as possible, which is a lot of the mindset work, a lot of inner work. If you have trauma and wounds, finding the right therapist, even if you have to go through 50 of them, finding the right therapist for you, where you can really get into your stuff in a safe place, doing things like you used EMDR. Yeah. And that was
beautiful.
Night and day difference.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely worked for me, because I had a lot of post-traumatic stress stuff that I wasn't aware of, that became abundantly clear, and doing the EMDR worked beautifully. So, and certainly moved me from where I was to where I am now. So, and then highly recommend it.
When she had cleared all of that stuff, that's when she found the right coach for her. And then they were able to take it on a whole deeper level.
That was so good.
Yeah, so finding those supports that you need to heal yourself, heal your mind, feel whole in your spirit, heal your body. I can't say enough how much we ignore our bodies and just push beyond and push beyond and push beyond, and then be like, why am I not just getting up, or why did I just run out, or why did I freak out?
And never mind the fact that your body retains all it experiences. Mm-hmm. You know, even like the words, the emotions, all those things, those are imprints that occur.
Even if you don't remember here, it's still back here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when your dinosaur brain, it's like, oh, this person said this to me. They automatically link it to the closest thing that it can find in the back of your brain there, that it was like, oh, this person was mean to me too, and this is what I did, this is how I felt, and it's immediately putting up the walls, putting up the defense mechanisms, getting angry at the person, because that feels like a good barrier against what you feel like they're putting back at you. The best barrier, everyone, though, is love. Loving you and loving the other person. And it doesn't mean somebody's like screaming at you and you're like, oh, I love them. No, I don't love this situation. I really do. I do love, in my pit of my stomach, I do care and love for that person. Right. And that's why walking away sometimes is the best thing.
Mm-hmm. And what you said is the situation. Realizing that it's not that you, like you said, that you don't love these people, is the situation is that you're not loving. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that needs to shift. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, I was thinking, like, there have been moments in my life where, you know, things didn't feel good, you know, be it with a friend or whatever. And I found myself, instead of being reactive, which is, you know, again, the work that I've been doing, instead of being reactive, I got curious. And I did something that I don't normally do. I would put it on Facebook and I said, I would tell the story from my perspective. Mm-hmm. This happened. This was said. This, you know, and I went down that road and then got to read the response of the people that did respond. And some of them were very reactionary, you know.
Most will be.
And others were like, wow, like that, you know, sorry that happened or anything like that. You know, because one of the biggest things that for me personally is when someone thinks a certain way or says a certain thing about me that isn't necessarily true.
Happens to all of us.
You know, like the one that comes to mind is when I was called the bully once. That was like, when I tell you, it threw me back. Like I in my head, I'm like, are you brand new to me? Like what? Like, you know what I'm saying?
And that just meant that your energy was really big compared to where their energy was at the time. So it felt, you know, like you were bulldogging them, because when people aren't ready to be around or receive your type of energy, they apply a label, and that was for you for the day.
And you know, and I took to Facebook at that time and put the story out, never naming any names, obviously, and just got to read some of the stuff, because, you know, I know personally I'm not everybody's cup of tea, you know, and I come. And I bring to the table a whole lot of boldness and reality and facts. And that's how I run my life. You know what I'm saying? So it just, to me, when I'm speaking to someone, I'm going to speak to them the way I would normally speak to anybody on the planet. You know, I don't change anything of myself to fit in or anything like that. Used to. Don't do it anymore.
I used to too.
Not my, it just doesn't work for me. So I have to be me. One of the things that I find it hard in being me has been the fact that it's very hard to keep friendships. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, either I walk away from them or they walk away from them, because I'm not going to change. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be me. I feel good in being authentically who I am. And I'm going to talk the truth. I'm going to be very factual. I'm going to give you a whole lot of my fucking heart and love you a whole lot. But I will not minimize me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that a lot of the times when I've been in relationships with friends that, like you said, there must have been moments where I was way too big.
Yep.
And they weren't ready for it. And they started doing these things, which, made absolutely zero sense to me whatsoever.
Most people backpedal out of their power because not a lot of people are in their power. So if you get into your power, people start looking at you different and reacting to you differently, or doing their damnedest to try to knock you out of your power.
Yeah.
So you can come back to where they're at and where they're comfortable.
And boy, did that knock me out of my power when I was called a bully. Like, I was just like, because I don't ever want anybody to feel that way towards me. You know what I'm saying? Like me putting that out, like, no freaking way do I ever want that kind of energy. So that like smacked me right out of that power real quick, which then got me super curious. Why did I do that? I'm going to share this to see what I get as feedback, because it's always, I get into this really curious looking for information and really assessing before I do anything else.
And please pay attention to all the information and all the input, because a lot of times we just automatically look for the information, which is not information, that validates wherever we're standing in the moment. Instead of all the different perspectives.
Just being honest about what you get as feedback, and not just what you want to hear.
Exactly. I think something important that you just said is where you're like, I'm not going to change who I am for anybody else. I want to make sure everybody understands when she says that, the change, she's not going to change her values.
No.
She's not going to change the core of who she is. And a lot of the problems that a lot of people have is because when you meet somebody and it clicks, it's because your energies link in that moment. Like I had somebody that I was in relationship with, and our energies linked, and they linked really, 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 really fast, really, really strong, really powerful. And then I started growing and learning more and getting healthier, and this other person started doing less healthy things and less integrative things, and so our energies grew apart, so everything got kind of all out of whack. But I was changing. I was growing. I wasn't staying in the place. We happened to meet up when I was really ill. I wasn't staying in that vibration anymore. The same thing I think happened with the friend that I was talking about earlier. When we first met, I was sick. My energy was low. I was tired all the time. I was frustrated. Like I had a lot of low vibration stuff because my body was just not functioning properly, and I was scared about that because I have a lot to do on this planet, and I want to do it all while I'm here. So you hold tight and you don't change your core, your core energy, your core vibration of who you are, but the vibrations that you go and vibrate on as you learn and grow and have new experiences, that's constantly shifting.
It doesn't feel good when you change that, I'm thinking of a time where I did do that.
Where you stepped out of integrity.
Where I compromised my value for a friendship. And shortly after that, the friendship went to, I don't want to say it went to shit. We parted ways for several years, if you will. Because I needed that break, because when something pushes against my core values, that doesn't make me feel good at all. And I wanted to change that, to stay in the friendship at the same time when I knew it was hitting on that fucking core value. And it didn't feel good at all. So since then I'm just like, nope, not going to do that again.
Keep learning who you are. Keep learning what works for you. Keep hard lining into your head what's important to you. Grace is important to me. Integrity is important to me. So I do my best to measure all of my behaviors. Actually, this does into the second. I said two steps.
The second part.
The second part. This is exactly the second part. So the first one is, what can you control? Focus in on that, and then make decisions from there so it's more manageable. The second one is, it's a really awesome, it has an acronym, AIR, A-I-R, so that's really easy to remember, because we all live in this little bubble of our world, and bubbles are filled with air. So there's a best-selling author, his name is James Redfield, so I want to give him total credit for this. This is where I read this awesomeness. AIR stands for your actions, A. I is inactions, and R is reactions. The air inside your little world is all created and destroyed and made better and made worse by your actions, your inactions, and your reactions.
Yes.
So what kind of air do you want in your bubble?
Yeah.
Good, healthy, clean air,
Good,
hopefully,
healthy, clean
which
air.
is good, healthy choices,
Yeah.
which is paying close attention to your, not everybody else's bad behaviors, because we are so quick to jump down people's throats with your action, or you didn't do this, or your reaction to that, instead of, and I'm not saying to point the finger at you like judging myself, because that's another thing people do. They get into the bad, the guilty, the shameful place, and they start with, oh, I shouldn't have reacted that way. I'm such a whatever, or I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done this. And you're beating yourself up instead of beating the other person. We usually do one of the other or both, none of them being healthy.
No, not at all. I mean, and we've talked about this before, is that our reactions are ours, you know, and listen to this carefully. No one, and I mean no one, can make you feel or do anything you don't want.
Actually, I read something just yesterday to stop saying that.
Really?
That is bullshit.
Okay. Calling bullshit. I like it. How so?
If somebody does something awful, like walks up and kicks your puppy,
that would be a problem.
are you going to be like, I'm not going to feel anger towards that? I'm not. That is a very valid. Some reactions and some emotions and feelings are very, very valid, depending on certain situations.
Okay. I can see that.
Because they keep you safe, keep other people safe, and keep the integrity of society in line.
Yeah.
So they said at the beginning that was a nice thing, like stay in your power, be responsible for your emotions.
Yeah.
But what I was reading is how the spiritual community is kind of like, they do everything, bastardize and commercialize everything to make money off of and make you feel less than, so you keep needing them. That there are some situations where are not safe or are not okay in society, that are not kind, that you need to allow that emotion to come out. I'm not saying if somebody kicked your puppy, your first thing. Yes, anger is very valid.
Yeah.
Sad that you just saw something innocent get hurt.
Yeah.
Very valid.
Yeah.
Caused by that person's actions. Totally. You didn't just choose like, well, I think I'm gonna choose to be happy that person just kicked the puppy.
I'm wondering if that was predominantly based on feelings, you know, like if you choose to take on a feeling like you made me mad, or you made me this, or you made me feel sad. Like,
because you're not owning your stuff.
Right.
So definitely own your emotions.
Yeah.
But don't always.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, I read it last night. I've been reading a lot because we talk. Like, one of our foundational things is, how come all of us that do this self-help, this spiritual stuff, keep circling the drain?
Right.
Because it's keeping us engaged and it's keeping us broken. So we always talk about, we're already whole right now.
Right.
So looking outside of us sometimes is valid. If the tiger is running at you and your life is in danger, you should feel fear. You should choose fear, and you should choose scared.
Yeah.
Like, it's valid.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
retracting from what I was saying.
Yeah. It's still valid, but in a certain way.
To a point,
and
I guess.
This is what we want. This is what we're talking about, where everything is whole right now.
Yeah.
There's all these different sides to everything. So what you've deemed as bad in that moment, or as good in that moment, or as sad, also can be happy, like guilt. Guilt means you have a strong moral compass, because you're feeling bad about something because of your inaction, your reaction, your action, or somebody else's. Like, you're feeling guilty because you have a strong moral compass.
Do I not have a strong moral compass because I don't feel guilty a lot of the times? Because I very rare do I feel guilty about anything.
Because then you rectify it. So your guilt is probably felt in a moment. Because if you have a very active your core values, and you're really tuned into that, which I know you are, and you do something that somebody would normally go down the beating themselves up for guilt, I feel bad, like that path.
Okay.
When you recognize that, you do something about it. You go have a conversation, because you've worked on all of these things. So the more work you do, the less guilty you'll feel, because the more you're like, nope, that's my moral compass. I need to write that. And then it resolves it, because it shifts the energy instead of continuing the I fucked up, I'm bad, instead of continuing that whole story.
Yeah, I don't like sitting in that.
No. So we'll do a video. Sense. We'll do a video. We'll link it below about guilt. We'll do a quick little video about guilt so that you can jump into that more, because I don't want to hijack letting go and acting out of love with guilt. So air. So yeah, be very conscious of
what is
your
it again?
Choices. Action,
inaction, and reactions.
So what's in your control? How do you focus on that?
Yeah.
And if you need key points to how to focus on that, what are good actions? What are good reactions, inactions? And then make decisions from there.
Yeah. And in applying that also, check in with your values, because that's a good compass for that as well.
Exactly.
So you match that up. I would assume it would be like an outstanding outcome, if you put it all together.
Exactly. So do your best to redefine what walking away means, because I know even being on the receiving end of somebody walking away can be confusing, can be hurtful.
Yeah.
It's all an opportunity to grow and to learn more about yourself. Yeah. This world is our playground to play with all the different aspects of super strong emotions. And the more we're tapped into our higher self and who we seriously are, the easier, I don't want to say it's easy, the easier it gets to navigate all of those things. Yep. So let's reframe walking away. We can do it as an act of love for ourselves and for the other people around us. Do it with forgiveness. Do it with love in your heart.
Yeah.
And if this brought any value to you, please like and subscribe, or share with somebody who needs to hear it, or watch it together, or set up a Zoom time or a coffee date to talk about it, because the more we start talking about these topics with each other, the more it normalizes, the more you're strengthening your friendships. And then you're talking about what Tara and Wolf said, instead of this is, that energy when you try to have a conversation with somebody and one or both of you isn't really comfortable with it. Let us be the icebreaker of the conversation. And just, see where you go. Even if you're not talking about your personal situation, you could use little examples here or there, but using what we said as just a springboard, like, I was kind of thinking this about it. You're learning more about each other and talking about it without having to get into the hard stuff, and then the hard stuff will start to get easier.
Right. And just keeping it in the forefront that walking away can be an act of love.
Exactly. Love yourself, love, and be kind to everyone around you as much as humanly possible.
Absolutely.
And let's start shifting the narrative on all these things that we've put into the bad box that can really be powerful for us. All right. Be kind.
Peace.